Hello, I'm Karen Fong. I'm a creative director at Imaginary Forces, and I'm based in Los Angeles, California. Well, when we founded Imaginary Forces way back in 1996, we're going to be 30 years old next year, if you can believe it. We wanted a place where there could be a collective of designers and filmmakers together, working collaboratively. We looked at design firms like Pentagram or different people from different disciplines all came together for a greater creative good. We'd already been working together at RGA LA, our Greenberg Associates, which then, if you know about design firms, went and did most of their work in the interactive realm. But we want to stay a lot with the film and the cinematic realm. And so we started Imaginary Forces. The three principals in the beginning, if you don't know, are Peter Frankfurt, Chip Houghton, and Kyle Cooper. Oh, wow. Well, I've always considered myself a concept-based designer, and so one of the biggest thrills is like when you get a new show or a piece of content to think how it could be encapsulated in such a short time. It's almost like I liken it to writing a bit of poetry, right? And any kind of good writing is hard. But novels, you have all the time to explain things and go different themes. But poetry, you have to be very concise. And it is indeed a challenge. And so when I'm working with a creative team, we almost like joke that we have to crack the code. We have to solve the puzzle of like what will mean the most to this show? What would get the most emotional response and be the right metaphor? The challenge with the title sequence, of course, is to lure the viewer in. And over the years, I've learned it's much more about creating questions rather than answering them. And the most important thing too is, most of the time you're not trying to tell the story or give information. There are some instances where filmmaker says, "Oh, you must tell the history or the backstory," but for the most part, what you're trying to do is set a tone and set a mood. So what you're really trying to go after is the emotions and the feelings. And I like to think of the poet. I'm going to paraphrase it terribly, Maya Angelou, but says people will forget what you say and forget what you do, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And so with the title sequence, you really want somebody to feel something, right? Whether it's anticipation or even a little fear if it's a thriller or, for a comedy, it's really important to make them know that they can laugh up front. When we're speaking about iconic main titles or main titles that make an impression, we cannot forget the composers or the music because a lot of the time, what you're flashing back to is that very visceral, gut feeling you get when you hear the music, right? And sometimes you can be in another room, right, and hear the first few bars of your television show, and you know exactly what's going on. Or I've been like shopping at a store and there'll be like some weird version of Game of Thrones or something, and then you're like all of a sudden you're there again, right? So with a project, it's very important that I was telling the showrunner, oh, let's make sure we talk to the composer, that we have an understanding, of the music. And I always joke at the composers, like, actually your work is 80% of this. It's all on you, no pressure. But the music really helps that feeling too, that kind of mnemonic device. When I'm thinking of a sequence, I'm always thinking of how can this sequence be unique to this show. Um, a really good title sequence will seem perfect for the show it's in front of, but absolutely ludicrous for any other show, right? So you want something that's ownable and something that is, that will be just signature for that show and that show only. And so the number one inspiration I always have is the show itself, and that can take many forms. There are some. Creators that will show you several episodes. Some of them have just started shooting and only have scripts. And so there's various things. But I always try to grab and pull out what the show is about, whether it's talking to the showrunner about the creative arc, the story, and where it's going to go, to getting stills from the production designer or the locations. Like I'm trying to get everything I can and dive really deep to see what I can like pull out of it. I would have to say that the shorter ones, for me anyway, are often harder because I'll hear again like, "Oh, we want something that will build," or build emotion and pay off. And it's difficult to do that when you don't have the runway and the time with the music, right? To like build it and build suspense. So for me, the shorter ones are a bit harder. They might be easier from a production perspective because there's less to render and less to design, but I feel that the impact is often easier with the longer ones. However, when you do have just the right idea for a shorter one, that is often very effective, right? And, there's the time aspect too. You never want to make a title that's, people feel they have to wait through, right? You always want to make it just the right amount of time and even maybe a little shorter to make them want more. Oh, I do use the, hybrid director designer all the time. I'm first a designer, I think, because I think conceptually for this, idea, and visually, but, that's an interesting question because in different disciplines, you kinda wear different hats. So when I'm working with a film director, I'm a designer. I'm working in the service like all the other designers, like the production designer or the stylist, the costume design. We all have our departments and we're working as designers for the film, which is the a director's vision. But I also do commercials and shorter brand films and things like that. And then or when I'm on set, I will completely function as a director. So it's the both, and it changes. I change a little bit like a chameleon depending on the industry and what's demanded in the work. Oh, I like them both. I like, what's nice about being a director designer is, both of them give you the work and the concept, and I really like having the ideas, so the both, help, are roles that I am allowed to do that. The wonderful thing about being on set too or shooting is that sometimes there are happy accidents. You can't control everything, especially when you're working with people. I did this job I'll speak about at Lisi's stores when I'm working with marionette performers. And, there are nuances to their performance that you're just not going to control the same way you are when you're doing computer graphics, right? And you get very, very narrow in that and you don't see what happens if somebody spills the water or or does something slightly different that's actually better. Well, a perfect, project, the typography and the imagery kind of merge, and they play different roles, but they work together, and it really depends on the project whether the typography starts it or the imagery starts it. I just finished a project that won't come out till next year, but it's completely type-based, and I love large, delicious, big type on screen, and we got to do that. In others, it's a supporting role, but it's very, very important, I think, because the number one job of a title sequence is to show the cast and the crew names, and we mustn't forget that, and the title, right? So, it's a very important for that emotional response. Sometimes people can't put their finger on it, but the typography will always help, get the feel of whatever the title is. Well, one technological and cultural revolution that has happened just in the last couple of years is the idea that we can work so remotely with our team. So now I have a team, at any given team, I have usually somebody in Europe or somebody in Asia, or even, I'm based in Los Angeles, work with New Yorkers or people all across the country all the time in all different time zones, which was just not so possible 10 years ago, right? And there's a little bit of it, but now here I am in Paris, and if I meet somebody, which is fantastic, I could actually work with them instead of actually saying like, "Well, you can call me when you're in Los Angeles and and you've moved here, and now we can work together." Well, at Imaginary Forces, we've got a strong design department. We have several directors like myself, art directors, designers, animators, editors, producers, writers, and then, of course, supporting players, but no less important, of accounting and and everything that makes the business run. And our collaboration, we often break into smaller teams. I'll run 3 or 4 projects at a time, as my colleagues do. And depending on the needs of the project, we'll have a combination of staff and freelancers. So I might be on a completely CG project where we've got everybody from Houdini artists to Cinema 4D to we use After Effects a lot. We always have a strong editorial bent, so we have got a great editor Lexi who's working with us, and so we divide up, and then some projects are smaller, and it's just me and a graphic designer, and an After Effects person. Some are live action based, and so we hire a whole live action crew. There are times like where we collaborate with each other. I just finished a project with Tosh Kodama for Percy Jackson. So we go into like little Lego bits of different combinations and different teams. It's always yeah, that's great, and I get that all the which is great, I get that all the time, I get it looking at our industry, which is fantastic. Um, my mentor, I began in Imaginary Forces, and my mentor is Kyle Cooper, he's the one who hired me, and he'd always say in the office, "Iron sharpens iron." It's actually from the Bible, and but the idea that, oh, if you're sharp, you sharpen who's next to you, right? And you want to be yeah, you want to play on the Dodgers, we spun the World Series. You want your team, you want the whole team inspires each other, right? And the bar is very high. And the best is realizing everybody wants the best for the projects. And sometimes we look at each other, it's late at night, and you look at each other and you say, "Do it's almost done, but there's just one thing that is bothering us. Should we change that?" And we look at each other and we're like, "Yeah, we better do that." And that having everybody like on, the same, everybody wants the excellence for the job, and that's very inspiring. I think it's a challenge for us. I think it's like, okay, we are asking you to make something that's not skippable, that somebody wants to sit through, and that's part of the show. And so we try as hard as we can to take them up on that challenge. And again, I joke with the composer, "Oh, it's all you. If you make a good song, they will not skip us." But I think it's a challenge to be embraced, right? And it's a good test of your work. It's like if people don't want to skip it, or if you make something, that stands the test of time and becomes the perfect opening for this show, then I think that's a good standard to set. I find that most of the show writers really do value and want to make, and if they've come to us, they value sequences and that they want to make something that is iconic. Because what's really true about these things is that, sure, they are on the front of the shows, but they really live in the culture as a whole. You saw that, especially when we did Mad Men back years. And all of a sudden, when a new season came out, you would walk around New York. I lived in New York at the time, and there'd be a tall building with a man falling, they put and everybody like, "Oh, it's the new season coming out." Or you like I said, like, you hear the song, and so the good ones, they enter the culture as their own thing, and I would say that most people probably see a main title, at least many of us who are interested in film and design, they see it outside the show. Often they're released as, on the internet or as a post, as almost like a little trailer. So it's something that can be, like a flag planted in the cultural landscape for the show, and that's very important to have, these things that remind you of the show even when you're not there watching it. It's extremely valuable. So I think those that have recognized that they want to invest in the title and do see that as a real asset. I think AI is super exciting. It's scary and exciting, and a lot of things in life. are scary when they're exciting, or even when you I'm gonna speak later about working with scary people, meaning scary, like, scary, talented people, and that's always the really, exciting things scare you, right? So, in AI, I started using it. I like to concept with it. I like to find out how it can actually expand our team's capabilities and time to explore creatively. Right? I hope I try to use it for maybe more of the rote sort of things. I also like to see test certain things so I can get some ideas out of my brain right away and see if they work. You know, we like we'll do concept art, and we just, for instance, recently did a project where we hired a bunch of illustrators to do art for this title sequence, but we could only do that really because we were able to quickly work up something in AI and show our client and say, look how wonderful it'll be illustrated. It was so fast that we couldn't actually hire the illustrators for that, but then they were like, great, go for illustration. So we were able to hire a whole team of illustrators because we were able to go fast in AI and show them. So I think there is always that tension. I want to use it in ways that don't deny people their creativity, but then I also like using it for parts of the job that might be extremely tedious or not possible with with our very talented human team. Yeah, it's faster, and it can weed I can immediately weed out, there was some we had done this, project, where we had to do things in the style of a mural, and we could see if that would look good, things like that. But I do think there is potential for new kinds of work. I'm excited to see, I'm a little nervous, but I would like to see it legislated so artists, because so it doesn't just draw from artists and there's no payment for it. I know there's mechanisms that are starting to be that way. I'm hoping they will continue in that way. But it is always trying to figure out where the best use for it is. But it's an exciting frontier for sure. And we aren't shying away from it at all. Oh, wow. Let's see. There's many that I've seen that I said, "Ooh, I don't know if I could have done that." That's amazing. Like, I love the Severance main title. I love yeah, it's beautiful, right? Strange and cool. I like this title about the Decameron. It's all these animated rats, and I thought it was all, I think Plains of Yonder did it, and that's, pretty, unusual. It's about the plague, I think, in Europe, and then so there's all these animated rats, and I thought that was really great. Well, the advice I give to any young designer is to work with people better than you are, and that's how you learn. I'm super fortunate to even still currently work with people better than I am because it was a wonderful talk this morning by Patrick Clare. He likened a creative director to how he felt without somebody without hands. And if you don't work with people better than you, then you're kind of limited by your own brain, but when you do work with very talented people, suddenly your ideas get better. Like they go beyond what you thought they could be. And so I've always been fortunate to have that through my mentors, through collaborators, like even interns, like a lot of people who are very talented. And so that's why I say look for the scary people, the people that scare you, and try to do whatever you can to be on their team, work as much as you can with them because that's how you'll learn the most. Just, I guess, a happy birthday to Motion Plus Design, 10 years. I've had the glorious pleasure of speaking here in Paris 10 years ago, but also for the Tokyo editions, the Los Angeles, and last year, Hong Kong. So I'm really, truly honored to be here.